Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, here with RDV. Tonight's episode, Xtreme TV. We are taking a Tuesday night to especially go over something that we found a hidden gem, as it were, RDV, showing on Netflix called Ragnarok. And we're discussing Season 1, even though Season 2's just dropped, and I believe they've announced the Season 3. So from my initial thoughts, and I really want to gush here for a moment, at the risk of insulting anybody of our loyal listeners and someone like you, RDV, that's into the comic book genre, I always kind of considered a lot of these comic book characters that exist watered down versions of the real thing that came from, Greek or Roman or different mythologies too. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's just the way I always took it. It was a simplified, easy way as a child when you're growing up on comics to get attached to something. And that's fine. When you and I were talking about shows to go and you recommended Ragnarok, my concern was, is it going to be like some of the stuff that's out there that may not be good or may not hold my interest? And after we talked about it, I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And after watching the first episode of Ragnarok on Netflix a week or two ago, I watched the second. Then I watched the third. Then I went to bed. Then I got up the next day and watched the next three because I think it's only 6 episodes. And I have to tell you, this show, whether the content specifically is in an area you like or mythology that you like, I'm going to ignore that for the moment. And as fans of file in here, to me, this show reaches high instead of going for the lowest common denominator. It takes Norse mythology, it puts it in an adult fashion in a modern day setting, and it's really, in my opinion, at least so far what I've seen, and I'm halfway through season 2 now, it's not a superhero show. It is about the gods, what would happen in like a real-time setting about them. But it's done in a guise of great characters. It's filmed well in this beautiful small town. And it really is all what we talk about with stuff. The story's not important. We don't care why they're there in this town necessarily. But even from going back and rewatching the first episode for tonight, there's a lot of little things that you go back and go, oh, that bird flying in episode 1, that person walking across the street and stopping. I see why they put them in here. This show is smart. It's written well. It's not like those 8 to 13 episode releases of shows that have a couple episodes we go, if they eliminated that, it would be perfect because it's filler. I haven't seen any yet. It's written well, smart, and it's about characters and developing, and you have them that you care for and you understand where they're coming from, whether they're the good guy or the bad guy. Overall, it's surprising because I don't say this often, so I just want to make this loud and clear to everybody. We're doing Ragnarok Season 1 on Netflix currently. It's a great show. I would say go watch it. It's very entertaining, enjoyable, and you get sucked into it a couple of episodes, and I think it's exceptional, and I'm surprised there's not a lot of hype about it. I know you've known about it for a while, so let me ask you, what made you interested in it, and what are your initial thoughts?
When I first saw this on Netflix, I'm like, oh, great. We're going to get like another like a Nickelodeon or a Disney, like, kind of like it's a kid version of like, I'm going to be Thor one day. Now it's like, so when I actually sat down and I watched it, I was like, wow, this is actually close to the actual almost, to the Norse mythology. And a lot of people, when they think of Thor, they think of Chris Hemsworth, and all that.
Exactly.
And I got to say though, like, I do like Thor just using his hammer and just beating up people and all that stuff. It's like, who doesn't like it? So this is kind of like basically the reason, like, with anybody who knows Ragnarok is basically the end of like Asgard. It's basically where,
it's their end of days.
Yeah, it's their end of days where Thor basically takes on the Midgard serpent, which is basically the child of Loki. And and they all die, and they basically they reincarnate, they come back, and it just keeps repeating the cycle, the whole entire thing. That's according to their lore, the Norse mythology. So when you see this, they're just a kid, David Stakston, also known as I think they call him Magne, but he's basically a reincarnation of Thor.
Yes, and he doesn't know it.
No, he doesn't, and that's what's great about it. None of these people really know who they are, except for the frost giants. Basically, they don't really call them frost giants. They're giants, though. Yeah. Yes, they, they basically live. They're the ones that basically are rich and stuff. They got the daughter, the son, and the mother, and they're all basically invested in this little town called Ida. I think it's called Idne, or I think it's Ida, but I said they you know obviously are mortal. We find out more and more about them as it goes throughout thing. You know that's why they're so perfect and everything. But they also have this dark kind of like you know cloud around them. You know the mother is the principal. The father runs his company. The two kids are pretty much like ultra perfect. You know the son's kind of you know Fiora is kind of a jerk. Saxa is kind of like the most popular kid, the most popular girl. You know, it's a small little town, and it's in over in Norway. So they're you know they're in pretty much in Denmark where Norway where they're filming this.
Yeah, there's a small town. I looked it up, and they legitimately film it there. In towns like maybe 5,000 people.
Yeah,
5102 or whatever, like Twin Peaks was supposed to be. It's extremely small, but the shots are beautiful. You definitely feel like you're there. And the interesting thing here, as people start piling in the chat, I see Marania's here. The one thing to kind of pile on to what you're saying is here is that, you know, I said that they were the bad guys, if you want to think of it as Thor good, giants bad. But we've talked before that like we just did an episode of Kolchak where we talked about this Greek goddess, Kathy Lee Crosby, in an episode, and we talked about how there's certain themes that always seem to kind of come up in writing, and a lot of that has to do with that's what happens in different cultures. And I don't know the backstory on how Ragnarok got made, if it was made for Netflix, Europe, or whoever, and then it just you know switched around into the different places here in America and overseas, but came out last year. So to me, watching this, you're absolutely right. They're the giants, and there's a line early on where the father that's the head of the giants, all of them know who they are. They know what they were. They know that they're supposed to kind of just be a part of humankind, and they do so in what would be a very realistic way. The wife's the headmistress at the local school that everybody goes to. She treats everybody nice. You don't know that they're quote unquote evil. The father is ahead of this business empire and energy company, and the energy movement in Europe's a lot different than what it is over here in the United States. Currently in the United States, energy is transitioning allegedly to electric vehicles primarily due to government influence. ESG investing is a very popular trend right now. So whether you're an old energy guy like me that believed in oil and stuff like that, the reality is that the world is attempting, or at least the United States is attempting to look like Europe. So this whole energy angle, my first concern was, oh, they're going to try to get woke with this or not, and they don't. But this family, everybody's got a role, and you start to understand that when the father makes the comment of, hey, we were gods here on this earth, we used to be the ones that were worshipped, and now we're not, and we have to fit in. You realize how much of a struggle it is for them. And we start seeing certain things that happen, like she bathes in like milk and some other things too. They really show a great deal of restraint, not having all these fireworks, these special effects, all the hocus pocus CGI crap that you get in most comic book movies and adventure movies today. And that's a real plus for the show. It allows you to kind of get involved with characters, because like we say, starting off, we see Thor. He's this teenage kid with his mom. He's got a really bad bowl cut. You know, he wears those big Norwegian sweaters, so you can't see his physique. But boy, you find out later, this dude is jacked as F. You know exactly what I'm saying. But he's got the glasses on, and he's kind of like the dopey kid, and he's dyslexic. He can't read. So he meets somebody very early on that's got the blue hair. She's the outcast. She's kind of the you know, the one that befriends them. Yeah, they're like partners and all that too. But she's working on a case, so she's playing Nancy Drew. This is just a good way to start.
Isolde is the girl who Magne basically is befriends, because he's a nerd. He pretty has his glasses. You know, he's kind of like, he can't read. He's not that smart and stuff. He has this little stress thing. You know, those little devices, the mind benders, where you basically you can turn and twist them. It's not a Rubik's Cube, but it's like almost like tubes, like straws, and they're connected together, and you can just kind of rotate them for stress, you know. And every time he breaks one, mom gives him another one. It's like it's his mom babied him so much, and I guess that's the one flaw from the show is the mom. She's like, she doesn't care what's going on. She's like, oh, that's nice, honey, you know, that was cool. it's like what, but. Yeah, Isolde is basically she's an environmentalist, you know, because she's in the very first episode, and I thought, wow, this is gonna go woke real fast, you know, because if she's all about environmentalism, she's all like, yeah, this company, the rich kids, you know, Fuhrer, and all, you know, she doesn't really know the giants, you know, but they're polluting us. The water is killing people, getting people sick, and you see in the effects of towns where where people actually are getting sick,
She's like the female Kolchak.
Yes. And she wants to go up on the mountain, and she takes Mande up there. Mande, who already was starting to become more like Thor, because when they first entered the town, him and his Loritz, with their mom, they're driving in, their car breaks down, or actually not car breaks down, but an old man in a scooter, eye patch, gets caught in the middle of the road. His scooter dies, and then Mande goes out there, and then this old woman is there too, and she pretty much touches his forehead and kind of awakens the Thor, his powers in him. So I love how as you get through each episode, he gets stronger. He doesn't need his glasses. He's just like you see him slowly transforming into Thor. Like even towards the end of the series, you see him with his hair pulled back, like Thor would be, like
Yes.
So it's in like the strength. The dude, like, because obviously this kid, like, he worked out. He's supposed to be like 17 years old.
That's genetics, bro. The guy is a genetically blessed individual. My God, as a guy I'm looking at, he has a man's body. No, none of these 150-pounders, shaved chest and baby oil. This guy's the real deal. Yeah.
So David Stakston. Stakston. Look it up.
I'll go out on a limb and say he might be more naturally jacked than Chris Hemsworth, who I'm sure does a cycle or two, puts on weight. And I like Hemsworth. I think he looks great, and he's fantastic too. But this guy just looks natural.
If they let this kid like work out more and stuff and put on more weight, dude, let him be He-Man or let him be the next Thor. Who cares?
It's physically, he's impressive that way, but you don't see that early on because he's a schlub.
So it's I said it's great to see the quiet, timid. It's serious. He doesn't get obnoxious, but there's a scene in here where him and his brother are invited over to the Giants, because they're trying to learn more information about this guy, because they figure he's a threat because he's asking questions about his friend's death. Because what happens is his friend, he had to go down because Loritz, who doesn't know he's Loki yet, called him down, played a trick on him, so he had to run down the mountain and leave his friend up there, his old up there. She discovers, and she's going to get a sample of the water up the top of the mountains up there, which are owned by the Giants, pretty much, their little family. She discovers the ice melted away, and there's a hole there, and she discovers there's a basically where there's a tunnel going there, and it says proper. It's really old. It says private property of the Yortor family, whatever they call it, and it's just like she ends up being killed, and you watch it, and she's like coming on. She's paragliding basically, and you see her float down, and then she hits the electrical wires, and sparks and dies.
It's an incredible scene because there's no dramatic music. There's no build up to it. They had mentioned about paragliding down there because that's what you do in those situations or can do. And then you see it, you're like, oh, shit, they're going to do this. You're going to get maybe one scene an episode, and it's not necessarily at the ending or anything.
You see her, she gets killed, and you find out, while this is going on, you have, Vidor, he was the head of the Giants family, and he's out there, just killed a reindeer, ripped its heart out, and and whenever he does, like, you ever notice the family, whenever they get primal, they just go naked. It was just really weird. I was like, the guys, it's like, same when I saw a clip, and it was just like pastoral,
back to nature kind of thing.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So it was funny to see this, but So my favorite scene out of this whole entire season is when like Loritz and actually Loritz was becoming friends with the oldest son of the Giants, Fjord, and this is in Saxa. They come over and they have like a party thing, and he pulls out because he notices that like, hey, you want some really strong? This is what the old gods use. And I love how they act like historians, even though they are the old gods. They said, like, before this, the gods, used to drink this. And it's called mead. We do on some, and I love it. As soon as you see Magna, remember he's got the Thor reincarnation inside him. As soon as he starts drinking the mead, he lets loose, and they have a throwing axe with a stump mounted. He throws the axe and basically splits the wood in half. And as soon as they see that, the family's like, "There's something special about this boy. He's different." It's like and everything. So that's they start getting a clue that something's wrong. But
As far as Thor goes, I want to touch on a couple things that you brought up and that I thought were pretty interesting. You mentioned how he's a timid guy early on. We mentioned the death of the friend he gets acquainted with early on, his a school partner there that gets him hooked into the story. She does such a great job in this one episode. I'm really kind of shocked that they killed her off because I thought she would have been great if she stayed in. Myself, it would have added, I think, to it. But such is life. To me, what was neat, as you said, he doesn't know he's Thor, and we know that he's supposed to be, I guess, if you don't read ahead and you watch what helps you go, oh, this guy has no clue what he is or what he might become, or how does he become Thor? We're not quite sure. But as he's going along, even though the mead's like the steroid treatment that really lets him go wild, what was neat was he was kind of discovering things on his own, like when he went to run down the mountain path to go home. He ran down there really, really, really fast. And it becomes a story angle later on because the cop who's investigating the death of his friend basically doesn't believe his story because he says, you mean to tell me you ran down here in like 10 minutes? Well, nobody can't do that in less than 20. So either you're lying or you got your time wrong or whatever. And you're like, oh, I didn't think of that because they don't show him running like you would in a superhero movie. And then he thinks about it. He goes to the track at his school, this indoor track, which I think is badass. He gets his timer out and he runs like a mile and he just beats the world record. Then runs like the 100-yard dash or whatever, and he just beats that. And he just makes a comment to his brother like, hey, I just ran it like 9.4 when the world record's like 9.6 or whatever it is. And his brother's like, oh, that's nice. And so you see this in stages, like you say. And by the time he gets to where he drinks the mead, you're like, this guy has no idea what's going on. That's the beauty of it.
That first episode, he threw the hammer, and it went like 1.5k kilometers, or something like that. Or, it's just, and where it landed in Vitor's car in his parking in his driveway. So it's like that ties into the thing. It's like where you're like the. Did you vandalize his car? It's like because he was blaming them for Isolde's death. It's like because it's something's wrong. And it's
no pun intended. That's not a throwaway scene. That's at the end of season 1. So you're left on a hook. It becomes that because again that's involved in the investigation of what's going on, and it's smart because. What do we want with Thor? We want to see Thor and his hammer. Do we see it a lot? No. But we see it in the first episode, and we don't see it again until I think at the end of episode 6, approximately.
Yeah, and the thing is that you don't know if that's supposed to mean Mjolnir, but it has the family name in it, the M
etched
in the bottom. So you don't know if that's it or if he's got to build a hammer or what. It's like because. Obviously, according to lore, it's like he can't just create a hammer if he wants. So he has to do it a certain way, and it involves all the stuff how Thor's hammer was built according to Norse mythology. So they really are restricted to that. But like I said, like he goes and buys another hammer, and then he throws that one too, and he's like, it went from one side of the football field to the other, to the end zone. And I just love it. He does notes. He records everything he does. It's like he's like, I just did this, and it's like, holy shit. It's like, and what was the other one that he was doing? Because remember he's not that smart for typing, so he has a laptop. He does voice to text. I'm thinking, how does that work for him? Because
he's like the male Kojak.
Well, no, because he's doing reports, the book reports. I'm thinking like that spelling's got to be off, or autocorrect ruins it. It's like everybody knows
learns. It's AI. It's built in.
Yeah, it's live in like Norway. I don't know how good it is. It's what kind of computers they're using, but
it's probably better than here in the States, honestly.
Maybe it might be. But like I said, there's little things like that. It's a slow. This isn't an all action.
It's not at all.
It's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn.
But it's a good slow burn, though.
Let's change topic here a little bit. We talked about how the show basically is. We talked about some of the characters. He does meet another character that seems to have a special quality that seems to be a flirty type. She's attractive in a young woman sort of way, but she's not what you'd call hot or jumps off the screen at you.
Yeah.
And it's neat because he has her trick the auto guy to build his own hammer the next day, which you're referring to, and that's a fun scene. But we know she's probably a goddess of some kind or somehow involved. But let's take a minute and let's talk about one of the most important things when we talk about good guys versus bad guys, and that's this. how good is the bad guy? Because if the bad guy is so much better than the good guy, and we start rooting for the bad guy, it's a sign usually of not good writing. In this show, the bad family allegedly is there, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But with Loki, we know, of course, he's mischief and he's this and that.
Yes.
And I'm a little rusty on my mythology with it too. But they're buddies, they're brothers, they're friends,
they're frenemies,
and they're supportive of each other. Loki seems like he plays people almost inadvertently without being malicious, like in a typical teenager way, especially if you're an uncomfortable new kid in town. And that's a different way of doing it. And in this show, that also works.
He pretty much Loritz, and he doesn't know he's Loki, but he pretty much will pretend to be people's friends, get information out of them just to betray them. I love it the way he does it. It's like everybody loves like Loki from the MCU. This guy, the way he acts, almost seems more like Loki than Tom Hiddleston, whatever his name is. It's just the way everything goes on, and like I said, like this kid barely tries to be Loki, but he just comes off that way. Compared to his brother, who's built like a house, he's skinny. And I can't remember if it's the season where because we learn more about his father and stuff.
Yes.
Because in the North mythology is that Loki is a half brother. Pretty much.
Yes.
Or not really a half brother. He's more adopted. That's what he is. He's adopted. And this, though, they make him a half brother. It's basically his mom slept with Vidor back when she was in her 20s, and this is a long time ago. And such, they had an affair, and he finds out that Vidor is his father. So then, Vidor wants when Vidor is
he has that I don't have a father thing going for him, because
he wants to bond.
Another part you could say is, it's another Netflix show where the man of the house is not emphasized at all or completely absent. You're like, oh, this is typical here, but there's a reason why, and again, it works. There's nothing woke or PC about it.
It really drives a wedge in the family, because this is like Vidor is is pretty much the sworn enemy of Thor. Magne, and Magne knows that this guy was involved in family and that she was killed up there and everything. It's just the way they act. And something about this is really interesting too, because when they brought up the scene that when this kid Loritz finds out that his mom had slept with the other guy, one of the scenes there was a conversation between the mother and not the mother, but it's Vidor and his wife. I forgot what her name is.
The bad couple.
Turid, I think is his name, right? Is it Turid? No, it's Ron. Ron is her name. Yeah, she's and Ron, basically what she says to Vidor is like, you slept with that girl. It's like, it's like, really? It's like, I hate humans. Like, they just get old and die. There's no point of being in emotions and stuff like that. And but Vidor is trying to show more emotional and that's unlike him. And especially when she finds out that he actually fathered a son, which is supposed to be impossible for them to do. They can't reproduce. And I love what Loritz basically comes back and says kind of her. He says well, maybe you're just barren. He's a bad dude, but he does play the role of head of the family, I think, very strong, because he knows what's at stake, and he's seeing the people in his family kind of get a little soft, and I think that's his frustration, because his wife is gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's everything a positive female character would be. Obviously she gets cheated on, but again, when you live thousands of years, one night stand, nobody even thinks about it, or you're discreet. And then their son is falling in love with the girl that ends up being Thor's friend. We see that slowly develop, but he even seems genuine about it. And then you have their daughter, who's like the rich know-it-all, Saxa. She's the rich girl model girl. Everybody wants to be her.
But she plays as a smart person who's not really that snobby at the more she talks and goes on, and is actually very smart in the business and has a good head on her shoulders.
I love the fact that her, when they have a meeting about how they basically have to kill this kid, they have to kill Magda. He's getting too close and all this stuff. He's supposed to be Thor. It's we have to get rid of him. And Saxa sides with her father, Vidor. It's we have to kill him. Where we're basically Fjord and Ron are like, no, they'll draw too much attention. You already killed the one girl. If you kill him, you're just gonna cause us more problems and all this stuff. We got all this stuff crap going on. And because they have what happens is like they have an axe. Is what the Giants have.
Yes, their weapons.
It's basically in this thing, even though only old world weapons can kill a god.
Yes.
So, and the axe can kill them too if they're not careful. It wounds them. So Thor without his hammer, they're like, let's kill him now. Let's end this now. Like, he doesn't have his hammer. We can't get him his hammer. He's getting his, he's gonna ruin everything. And I love how like Saxa, like even though she's innocent at school, innocent little girl at school, she pretty much like she's like yeah, let's kill. It's like just cold blood, and she notices. I love how she notices. She picks up. She's like, wow, you guys are starting to get really emotional, like acting like humans. It's disgusting. It's like, what's your problem?
I know, right?
There's
what's happening between the parents is what's happening between the children. Basically, you just see it on a smaller scale.
Well, yeah, you see, because they had a prom, like a not prom, but like a spring dance or something like that. And
it's like their Constitution Day. It's a significant day in their cultural history.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's like, so the kids all party and stuff, and they Saxa and basically Loritz and Vidor put on old. It's basically sung in the old language. So and when they get into this, they get into almost like a psychedelic trance, and they're like, everyone else is watching. Everybody, the normal kids are like, what's going on? But Loritz picks up on it, and because that's him being kind of woken too by its old reincarnated self. Mm-hmm. And you see them get into this this trans stuff, and then it's when we find out that Loritz actually is he's gay. And
yes.
No, and the thing is that it doesn't ruin it though. It's not like saying, "Hey, I'm gay. Let's go." We're just gonna watch him go make out with people and stuff.
He's not swishy or anything like that. He's a very strong character.
No, yeah. So, but while this is going on with the music playing, the mom who is in there, the Rand, she's the principal. She's in there. She hears this music and she gets into, and she basically turns her on. She ends up sleeping with two like the high school students who were drinking beer. She leaves men in and I love how Saxa later on, like when they had the family meeting, just kind of calls her out. It's like, dude, you were having sex with kids and all. It's like, you're getting sloppy and you killed a girl. It's high school. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? You're losing control. And I just love it how she like stands up to them, and they're like, you see, Fuhrer has a personality change too because he meets this girl Gree, who basically a human girl, who at first kind of likes him, but she kind of doesn't. She's Jackson's friend, and they're supposed to cut off ties with everybody, but he kind of likes her and wants to be more with her, despite being told, hey, you're part of the family, or you die. You're pretty much. And what's really weird, because like I said, this, you look at it as a family, there's a lot of domestic abuse in the Giants family where they beat each other up. It's insane. Even where the point where Gree, who had slept over after the prom thing, notices that he sees him getting beat up by his father because
he's getting his ass beat, old school style. I mean, it's just you need a switch instead of whatever he had, and it's brutal. It's like this is not a slap across the face. This is the real deal. Yeah, he's got blood coming out. He's got a bruised eye, but it heals. She doesn't see the healing part, but she sees that. She kind of goes, and then it's creepy when she gets, because she's sleeping in the same bed as Sax. And it's like, she gets in the bed, she's like, Sax is like, where do you go? It's like, you thought you were sleeping. So it's like, this is, I said, it's a really, really, really fun series. I would just recommend sitting down and watching it. Each episode is like 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It's, like I said, it's not what you're going to get as far as you watch primetime television or American television. I love the fact that it's foreign, because a lot of times foreign films and foreign TV series do not have all that preachy nonsense. It's just a good time, just watching a show and letting yourself escape into fantasy. So I strongly recommend, if you haven't watched this, go check it out, Yeah, it's to me, you brought up something I want to touch on as we get ready to close for the night. But when you're talking about quote unquote the bad guy family, the Giants, you understand early on that we know that they're supposed to be the antagonists, and he says, "Hey, we're the ones that used to be worshipped," and so they're basically wanting the situation that it used to be, and over time, it's flipped. So you can say, well, who's good or who's bad? Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. So not trying to make it sound like they're good people or bad people, but you understand where they're coming from. You get what's going on. I mean, yes, I will say they're the bad guys, but there is what I would call a very smart line in here, and there's a lot of them in there. The more I listen to it, that I realize that they include that you may miss on first view, but there. You brought up earlier on the detective part of it where he goes into the glacier, and it's the old glacier where the big fight happens too. That's important to them in mythology. Right next to that is this. The glacier's melting, and so it reveals a natural cave. And when he goes in there and he sees the door that has the contaminated materials that the energy company had like 50, 60 years ago, he's realizing, oh gosh, this is right. And instead of Thor going crazy and destroying everything or getting holier than thou and being preachy and banging on the guy's door going, you're killing everybody in the town and all this stupid stuff, you see him look at all the barrels and you're like, okay, what the hell is he going to do? And then you see the father like basically getting arrested or brought in for questioning, and they just show one out of hundreds of pallets, one pallet of the rusty chemicals in front of the police department, and it made them like go look, and they just showed it to you. They don't tell you. It's not preachy. You don't see him being a quote unquote God. You see him trying to figure out, hey, what's the right thing to do in the right situation? And I thought that was really good. But also on the bad guy side, the head of the table there he's on the phone and he's talking with all his lawyers and stuff. He's like, yeah, I got to take this. And he walks off and he's like, yeah, they've been found out. We've got to move these 3,000 barrels or whatever it is. He goes, it was legal at the time. Because obviously the guy he's talking to, transporting him away out of the country, is asking, hey, is that stuff legal? Like thinking it was radioactive or biochemical or whatever it may be. And he said, hey, it was legal at the time. And you go, you know what? 60 years ago or when they had this energy business, it may have been legal to say this is where we're going to dispose of our material. And now it's not because of environmental stuff, but it's not, like you said, a preachy thing about it. You understand that this guy did something that probably was maybe legally questionable at the time and certainly isn't acceptable today, whatever. Then you would say, well, why don't the lawyers just handle it out? But he's just trying to avert anybody looking into him because they're the only energy company in town. And that's the symbolism of the gods versus the giants, basically a big corporation in town versus all the little people that live underneath them, literally and figuratively. The dude's got a sweet crib. You got to check it out for the house itself.
Yes.
But
oh my gosh, it's a old school cabin, kind of like if you went,
that's a Charles Bronson mechanic level of sweet crib.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. It is awesome. Yeah.
They got a freaking giant log where they keep all their kitchen knives in.
Oh, it's sweet. It's warm. It's cozy. Yeah. I mean, look, I'll close with this. I agree with you, and I want to thank you publicly for obviously offering something up that turned out to be such a wonderful gem on Netflix, because I don't know if it's getting a lot of pub. I know season 2 just recently dropped, so some people might be catching it. But when we do our monthly reviews of what's coming on Netflix and other places there as far as streaming movies and TV, we usually point out some gems. And we wanted to come on live tonight and talk about this one specifically because it's such a strong series. And the fact that it's done well and doesn't jump the shark or do anything stupid is a testament to the fact that, hey, once in a while you hit on something and it's very good. The last scene in episode, I believe it's 6, because there's only 6 episodes, the evil bad guy goes to beat up on Thor. Thor goes to save the girl that's there at the time. He's just trying to get out of there. He's not sure what's going on. The evil bad dude basically almost goes to kill him. Thor does this one little thing, and you get your lightning, and that's it. And scene. Wait for season 2. Like I say, they don't overdo the special effects, all the stuff, but when they do it, it's appropriate. It's done well. It works for the scene. It's not, hey, I'm going to get all my shit in just because we can. It's phenomenal. It's really good. I agree with you totally. Go see this. Yeah,
the first episode starts with him when he finds out his oldest dad, and sees her die. He just rages, and you see like the lightning storm strikes and everything. They have a helicopter shot of the town from the lake and everything. You see it, and you see the lightning. It's this beautiful scenery. And then at the end here, he said when the lightning comes down, and he brings his hands up and he pulls the lightning down, and they both fly away from each other. It's just like, dude, this is awesome. If you love Thor, check this out.
Yeah, the mom had a line, something that summed up every personalities. Is we're basically saying, hey, you're stubborn and you want to always try to do the right thing, and that
Oh,
gets in the way of what you think about. And
oh,
then said something about Loki, and then I think the evil bad guy. And I thought, you know what?
yeah.
That's
Wait,
not that obvious of a line to pick up on going, yeah, there's so many clues in these early episodes about things that are significant later on that if you miss them, it's okay. But when you go back, and like I said, when I rewatched episode 1, I went, holy crap, there's twice, 3 times as much stuff in
yeah.
here as what I thought. It's a lot like another show that we've been reviewing here on the Extreme Movie Show, our Xtreme TV channel, basically where Professor Pixel and I, who reviewed the original Twin Peaks from back in the 90s, a lot is like that too. If you go back, that's one thing that made it really, really popular, is that there's so many different things going on, and how did these things all connect? It made you want to dive in and try to put them all together. And the show doesn't talk to you with tons of information. They show you a little bit, and they're very restrained. It's a slow burn, like you say. And man, it's one of the best things on Netflix right now. Absolutely. Ragnarok season 1. Anything else?
Just go watch it and then get back to us. Let us know if you like this. If you hate it, let us know why.
Yeah, I think you know Maranya better than I do here in channel, but I assume she would really like the show out there too. We had Georgia Peach. If Georgia's still listening, Georgia may like this as well too. I tried tagging a bunch of people that typically I haven't here on this, just because Ragnarok is one of those things where it's just a gem, and I think the word's getting out that, hey, you need to go see this, word of mouth sort of thing. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about season 2 maybe next week, because from what I'm seeing halfway through, it's just as good. Anything you want to tease people about with season 2?
Season 2, you get the more restraints against Magna, because he's looking into the company, and the hammer comes to back to bite him in the butt. A little tease on that. Just more stuff with Gray, Loki, just don't drink the water. And like I said, it's I just love the whole entire relationship with characters, just like his oldest father, who is like the professor teacher, history teacher, they're bonding with him, and then just the whole thing where this show deals with censorship. Basically with Magna, like you said, when he's trying to expose the truth, he gets silenced. So definitely check this out if you like stuff like that, where someone's going up against being actually physically oppressed. Not just virtually saying I'm oppressed. I'm like, you're not oppressed. You can go get a job. No, I can't. I'm like, you can't. Go out and get a job. No, it's just like I said, this is actually a really, really good show, and I recommend you watch it. I'm
definitely not the yes man when it comes to a lot of these things too. So that's why we pick out stuff from the 80s typically. But you're right, it's a great show. Really like it a lot.
And it's available in both Norwegian and English dub, so you can watch it in English. I watched it in English, and I had the English subtitles on, even though they don't line up the words. They change different words and how they say things. You notice that from the original dub. I noticed that too. And the other thing is too, each episode you get in Norwegian, it shows you more information about the lore of Thor and everything, like the Greek gods, or not the Greek gods, but the Norse gods. Yes. And it's all in Norwegian, so make sure you have the subtitles on, because they actually will translate and tell you what it is.
It's one of those brief opening snippets that you would get at, say, the beginning of the Millennium TV show that was the what came after X-Files that Chris Carter made in the late 90s, where they'd have 1 or 2 little lines or phrases. And it's such an easy thing to do. Most shows don't even bother doing it, but it makes you go, oh, this episode's going to be about what they just talked about. And you're like, yeah, I'm already emotionally invested in before they even start the first scene.
Kind of like Legion. Legion would do this in the beginning. You get a phrase or something like that, and they talk about this, and then they would play a part in the actual storyline of that episode. And they all come together as one towards the end, so it's really cool to watch that. So make sure you have the English subtitles on, and also have the English dub on, or to watch it in Norwegian if you want to, if you want authentic
We have those listeners. Thanks,
Yeah.
RDV, for sharing time with me and going over Ragnarok Season 1, currently showing on Netflix here on the United States. Sure, it's available worldwide. Check it out. It's must-see TV. We'll be talking Season 2 soon. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. Maranya, of course, for, as always, showing up and listening to. I'm be interested to see what your take is on, as well as George Peach and all the newbies showing up tonight. Let us know what you think about it, because we're going to dive deep into Season 2 here shortly. Excellent show. It's a great summer watching. Looking forward to talk about it again. For RDV, everybody involved here at the Xtreme Movie Show, have a good night. And as always, stay extreme.
Later, guys.